That's it. And
I've never seen it this polarized.
You know who did it? You know who did it?
I know
who did it, Larry.
I know what you're going to say.
You say it. You say who?
You're wrong.
No. Who made it this polarizing? Say it, Larry. Please say who made it this polarizing. I'm begging you to say it.
Are you done? Are you done?
Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. They're working on some stuff outside, so if you hear some noise, sorry. Nothing I can do about that. Alright, so Michael Rappaport. He has a podcast, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, he has a podcast, and Larry Elder was on there. Anyway, someone sent us, I guess, a mashup of what some of the topics, so let's just take a gander here. Alright, so we're going to take a look at this. This guy's very animated.
Yeah, he's just an actor.
Do you feel like this personality is a persona? Because I feel like it's just too much, right? Every time I see him speak, it's very dramatic and very... Is that part of his shtick? I feel like it's part of his thing, like his bit.
Yeah, it's bad. It's obnoxious.
It is
It's like watching a white Roland Martin.
Oh God, I know.
Running your mouth and never having a period, you know?
All right.
The number one domestic issue facing America, by far, is the epidemic of fatherlessness.
Based on what?
70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. 25% of white kids now enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. And the stats are clear. If you're raised without a father, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. There, I've talked about the epidemic of fatherlessness, and I've not heard any GOP leader say this. I heard Barack Obama once say it. He cited the same stats I gave you, and then Jesse Jackson told him he was talking down to black people, and he stopped saying it.
Why is that considered talk? Because I've heard you talk about it, and I agree with that. And I've heard you on Charlemagne, and I've heard you on the other one, Van Latham, and the girl. And it seems like when you bring this up to some people, and I don't like to generalize, when you bring this up to some people, when you bring this up to some black people, it's like you're smacking them in the face.
Right.
It's so offensive
to them,
as opposed to being something that like collectively should be looked at and be solved. And I don't understand that. I do.
I don't either. I think it's a number of things. I think it is perceived as somehow dissing the black females who are courageously raising these men and boys by themselves. I think that they don't want to acknowledge it because they would rather focus on what they consider to be systemic racism, and they feel this is sort of blaming the victim, and it's not. As you point out, you saw my first documentary. I mentioned in 1940, 87% of blacks lived under poverty. 1960, 20 years later, that number had fallen to 47%. 40-point drop in 20 years, the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion in history for black America. Even though 1940 still had the KKK, you still had Jim Crow, you didn't have Brown versus Board of Education yet, none of that stuff happened because it was rare for a black kid to be raised without a father in the home. Also an embracement of Judeo-Christian values, a belief in entrepreneurship. Fast forward, Uncle Tom 2 talks about what happened to the civil rights movement after it had gone from demanding equal rights to demanding equal results, and people like Black Lives Matter began to lead the charge. On their website, they attack the nuclear family. The co-founders are trained Marxists. Marx was an atheist who didn't believe in God and didn't believe in entrepreneurship. So everything that made black people survive and thrive and grow after slavery is now under attack by the left.
So if by some miracle you became president, or let's say your guy Trump, and we're going to get to your guy Trump, and how apropos is it that you're in New York and that the former president is in court in the beautiful city of New York while I'm here talking?
He and I timed it this way.
How apropos. If by some chance you were president, which would be insane, that would be like the Hail Mary of all Hail Marys, or you had a spot working with Trump, how would you go to work to try to fix the epidemic of fatherlessness in this country for both white people and black people?
Can I say one more thing too, because you mentioned this on, you'd seen the Charlemagne the God. I just want people to understand how acute this thing is. This is according to the Centers for Disease Control. A young black man aged 10 to 43 is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a white man, same demo. The number one cause of preventable death for a white male 19 years and younger is accidents, like car accidents or drownings or drug overdoses. Number one cause of preventable death for a 19-year-old male and under is homicide, almost always at the hands of another 19-year-old black male and under. Blacks account for 60% of the homicides, the robberies, and the shootings in America. Now, unless you're prepared to say black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime, I don't think anybody's prepared to say that. If it isn't fatherlessness, please tell me what it is. And whenever I ask people that, they have nothing. I asked that to Charlamagne, he had nothing. Those two people, young people I mentioned at the other.
No, it's interesting because people always say, "Oh, why is Larry Elder always talking about the same thing all the time?" Why is he always, and I know like, when he gets interviewed, they're asking these questions. But people get sick of hearing him say the same thing all the time. But that's just it. Like he's literally saying the same thing all the time. Same stats you can look up. It's not like you can't look up what he's saying, But he's saying it all the time because he's trying to drive home that this is the actual problem. Same thing happens with us sometimes. People often say to us, "Why do you guys always talk about single mother rate?" Well, because people are not getting the fact that this is the base root problem of what's going on. I know people want it to be something else, but this is really the problem.
No, my question is, why aren't you?
Right.
Why is it you can talk about systemic racism, but you cannot add in fatherlessness and the single mother rate? You know what I mean? And the reason for that is because the Democratic Party knows that if they lean on the truth about that, they'll lose their base. Because what happens is black men start to get mad because it looks like they failed as leaders of the community, and black women start to feel like whores. Because they sleep around and don't get married.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what it kind of starts to come out to look like. Like we are the bed wenches of our own men.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like. We're just bed wenches of our own men. You know what I mean? Every time a black woman dates a white man, they call her a bed wench. But the truth is, black women are bed wenches to their own men. Because there are so many, what did it say? Only 30% of black people are even getting married. So that means there's a bunch of kids coming in here without fathers in the home. They're being raised by mostly their mother. Is that the idea that you aren't being choosy anymore? And the reason why you're not being choosy with men anymore, because women really, like Danielle said, control sex. Because it's up to us. Men can't get our phone number. They can't have sex with us. They can't do anything without our permission unless you rape them. Without our permission. So the fact that most women are yielding to sex without even having any kind of checklist, and marriage being on the top of that, lets you know that what's happened is we've been brainwashed into thinking that abortion will save us, birth control will save us, women's rights will save us, and that we don't have to do that because we're just like men now.
Yeah.
And black men, because they are getting sex, they've bought in, most black men, not all of them, but bought into we are the same. Because most black men have been raised by their mom.
Yes.
And grandma. And so they do think that because they've been raised by women who have paid for everything and been a part of it. So when Larry mentions that, it upsets him that they won't go to racism, because when you blame something on racism, you know what I mean, then you can take the pressure off yourself.
Women, single mothers will say to us, "You're putting it all on the woman. What about the man? It takes two to tango." All these key cliche things that people say, and the reason is because we control the sex part of this. Women control that part, and if you can control yourself in that part, then we can close up these numbers. We can the gap, that huge number of single mother rate and all this can be with abortion rates. We can be closing down on these numbers if we could just do our part and control that. But that's why the to the tango thing, yes, that is accurate. Yes, that is true. But because you are the one that is giving it up, this is essentially a lot of your fault. But I think this is a bigger issue anyways, because it's almost as if for a lot of black people, marriage is not even on the table.
Even Robert Woodson said during the Civil Rights Movement that the Black Panthers deemed the nuclear family, Ozzie and Harriet, Eurocentric.
Yes.
So they did away with that. So getting married and having children is a white thing, not a black thing. That's what he's essentially trying to say.
Yes.
And so with the Black Power movement and the women's movement and this sexual revolution and all that came a lot of, because once you say that men and women are the same, then women feel like they have to then become that.
Yeah.
That's why shows like Sex and the City were popular, because the truth is that if you go out there and say, I can work like a man, I am like a man, then now the next thing you're going to have to do is have sex like a man. Unfortunately, sex for us is different than sex for men because we can have children.
Yeah.
So if you go out there and sleep around, you're either going to have an abortion, or you're going to be on birth control. But more than anything, you're going to water down your value and your perception of men by constantly having sex with men. That's why it's better to be a virgin when you get married, because then you don't have this this whole roster of men that you've been with before you got married. So the reason why, and then that makes you not as innocent anymore. Right. So you see things through a very not innocent lens. But, since we all started doing that, now you just go on Instagram. Look at how many girls are half naked. It's like just for attention. Yeah. That's it.
And we're desensitized to it.
If it isn't fatherlessness, please tell me what it is. And whenever I ask people that, they have nothing. I asked that to Charlamagne. He had nothing. Those two people, young people I mentioned at the other podcast I did, they had nothing.
Why? I don't understand that.
It's
specifically that.
Because it's hard for them to look in the mirror and say, maybe, just maybe, we're not doing some things we ought to be doing. Maybe, just maybe, it's us.
If you were part of the next president, albeit Trump, or you became president, lightning strikes, Hail Mary, Roger Staubach down the field, what would you do specifically to try to improve that?
The first thing you do is acknowledge the problem.
Right.
That's why I supported the Million Man March in the mid-'90s. I didn't support the messenger, but I supported the message. And what he said, Farrakhan, he said, man up. When you bring children into the world, you have a moral obligation to feed them, to clothe them, to house them, to educate them. And failing to do that means you're not really a man. I supported all of that. Second thing, these kids need mentors. I liken it, Michael, to AA, where you're an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic, you have a sponsor. You have somebody, you pick up the phone, call, guy comes to you, talks to you, mentors you. There are a whole bunch of baby boomers my age who are retired, about ready to retire. They're physically fit. They've raised their children. They've nurtured their grandchildren. They have life experience. They have wisdom. I'm urging them all to get involved and to step up and be mentors. If you can't do that, at least give resources to your local churches and other organizations in your own community doing this work. And there are people doing this stuff all over the place. My church is the Calvary Chapel Church of Chino Hills. We have a program where men go door to door here in Harlem, offering mentorships. Get involved. Step up. Secondly, we spend a lot of money, waste a lot of money at the federal level and at the state level in various capitals on programs designed to fight poverty that just don't work. Instead of my tax dollars going to New York, going to DC, can I just, on my form, check out where I want my tax dollars to go, write down the organizations they should go to? There's an organization in LA called Bond, Brotherhood of a New Destiny, led by a guy named Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. What he does is mentor people who grew up without fathers. To calm them down, tell them they shouldn't be so angry, have them forgive their fathers. That's what he does. And there are organizations like that all over the country. They need hands, they need money.
All right. As far as the media, does it, like this whole idea, listen, I'm a white dude.
My condolences.
You know.
It's not a good time to be a white dude.
Is it not?
It's not.
I think we're getting it back though. I feel like 2024 is going to be the white dudes are going to come up again.
When
white men, straight white men, straight Christian white men are the most attacked right now. So it is not a good time.
Because that was the genius of the Democratic Party. Like again, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be so shocking if Joe Biden won. Is because what they essentially did was create a minority. Yeah. So if white men are the only ones voting Republican, then everybody else, including white women, because of feminism, are voting Democrat. Right. And so what they've done is make everyone a victim except for white men. Yep. If you're a white man, you got to be gay. That's the only way to get your victim card. That's it. You got to be gay. But if you're not gay, and you're just a white heterosexual man, and God forbid you be Christian. Yeah. Then you are really the enemy. And so it was a genius move on the Democratic Party to do that.
Biden was endorsed by James Clyburn, 2020. This is after Bernie Sanders won the Nevada caucuses. For a while, this guy, a self-described Democrat socialist, was their front runner. They were scared bleepless. James Clyburn endorses...
Say it. Come on, Larry. Come on, say shit. Go ahead.
My father does not like me to curse.
I know.
He never did, and I cursed.
I get it. I respect you.
I cursed a lot, and my father would cringe every time I did it, and he said, "I just don't like you to do that," and so I try not, out of honor to my
Just
dad.
say it one time on camera.
Bleepless. And he extracted a promise from Joe Biden that if you're elected president, I want your first Supreme Court nominee to be a black female.
Biden gets the nomination. He runs with a black female. For a little while, it appeared that Dianne Feinstein might not finish out her term, and this is about 3 years ago, and Gavin Newsom said, if she can't finish out her term, I'm going to nominate a black female. That is why, by the way, they are stuck with Kamala Harris. No matter what happens, if Joe Biden cannot fog up a mirror, it will be Kamala Harris.
What is your opinion on Kamala?
I think pretty much the same as everybody else.
What is it?
Nobody's there. She was asked to get to the root causes of illegal immigration. The root causes of illegal immigration is Joe Biden, and she can't say that.
Why can't she say that? Because then
She had the most left-wing voting record, even as left-wing as Bernie Sanders when I was up there. What do I think about any of these left-wing people? That's why I wrote the book, As Goes California. Tax, spend, regulate, climate change, alarmists, soft on crime, soft on the borders. I feel that way about all of them. Kamala Harris is no different than any of the other ones.
The lack of gray area is really the big problem in politics. And I'm no expert of politics, but the fact that it's the LA Dodgers, the New York Yankees. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And
I've never seen it this polarized.
You know who did it? You know who did it.
I know
who did it, Larry.
I know
Before I say it.
I know what you're going to say.
You
but
say
you're
it.
wrong.
You say who.
But you're wrong.
No. Who made it this polarizing? Say it, Larry, please. Say who made it this polarizing. I'm begging you to say it. I am begging you to say it. I am begging you to say the guy who made it this polarizing.
I think that Donald Trump angered a lot of people, including the media. I'll tell you why.
He made it this polarizing. He took it to like steroid Barry Bonds level.
They should look in the mirror. When Donald Trump first decided to run, he was on CNN, he was on MSNBC, hee-haw, which is what I call it, all the time. Why? They thought of him as a joke, but every time he was there, the numbers went up. So he starts picking off these candidates one after another, and they realized, holy bleep, I did it again. We created a monster. And so they went after him with a ferocity that I've never seen before because they know they helped to create him.
As far as making it polarizing and who's made it, taking it to another level, Trump, and you're a chill dude, you're a well-spoken dude. When I think of a conservative person who presents himself like a conservative, you are absolutely somebody I would say, who presents himself that way. Trump got elected iconically at his debates. Why he became the people's champ, lying Ted Cruz, this one's names, that one names. That seems so opposite to the type of behavior that you represent from yourself.
When people talk about that, him getting names, look, is that how every politician, or if I was running for something, I would do that? No, it's not how I would do it. But it is part of the game, and he has to go with what works for him. So him doing that to me, I had no problems with, only because the game of politics is dirty anyways. So, what difference does it make if he's calling people these names?
I mean, he was up there with a bunch of seasoned politicians that most have been in politics for over 20 years. Yeah. At least 20 years.
Right.
You know, here he comes in and he's not been a politician at all. He's contributed to all their platforms at some point in his life, but he was never a politician. At this point in the game, though, Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, was also soaring in the Democratic Party, and the Democrats wanted to try to get rid of him as well. And so at this point, we had Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders really making headlines because they were not acting like politicians. Essentially, they were going against the establishments, and even Donald Trump said, I was a little bit more worried if Bernie Sanders had won. Yeah. He said, because he had a lot of those people coming to those. He did. He had
40,000. He had what Trump has.
Had people just lying.
He had what Trump has.
And so they realized right away, I think on both ends, both of these establishments realized right away that people were just sick of politicians. Yes. And that's the reason why he was able to say lying Ted Cruz, and he was able to make fun of Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, and they were all being knocked out one at a time every time he gave them a name. Is because people were truly sick of politicians, and they still are.
Why and how can you support a guy who also, I also heard you say that when it comes to debates, you're not at the debates. You don't like everybody shooting each other down, and then because it's not good for the party, and you don't like that. People like Gavin Newsom will then again use it against you. But Trump got elected not shooting, publicly lynching, giving nicknames, sexualized hands, all the bullshit that he did. And I know you don't curse. How can you support this guy?
I'm watching the Golf Channel. I'm not a golfer, but
Give it to me straight. Don't give me about the golf. You're gonna think you don't.
I'm watching the Golf Channel.
Don't Tiger Woods me here like a Jack Nicholson me.
And I love the sport, although I don't play it.
Okay.
And
I'm following you. You're not gonna
stay with me. This is going to make a lot of sense to you. These two professional golfers were being interviewed, and the host said, "What makes a good golfer?" And one of them went through this beautiful, elaborate description of what makes a good golfer: where you put your hands, where your shoulders are, where your legs are, where your eyes are. And the other one went like this. I look to see where the ball lands. Mm-hmm. I like where the ball lands on immigration, on abortion, on judges, on taxes, on losing the regulations, on reversing the war against oil and gas, on standing up to China. That's what I like. The rest of it is white noise, pardon the expression.
But is it white noise, Larry?
To me, it is.
Joe Biden goes to Howard University. This is a few weeks ago.
Commencement exercise. And he says
The number one threat to the homeland is white supremacy.
Right.
Are you smoking something?
Right. I know, it's pathetic.
the
It's pathetic.
Anti-Defamation League keeps track of how many people are killed every year by extremists. Last year, there were 25 people out of the over 20,000 people who were killed.
And every one of them is a heartbreaking, devastating thing.
Yeah, but it's 25.
But I got it.
And if you want to play that game, Michael, most homicide is same-race homicide. Most
Right.
white people who are killed by other white people. Most black people who are killed by other black people. However, every year there are roughly 750, a small percentage of the homicides are interracial black-white. 500 white guys are killed by blacks, even though blacks are 13% of the population, and 250 black guys are killed by whites, even though whites are 60% of the population. Now, if Donald Trump went to a university and said, the number one threat to the homeland is black supremacy, you and I would both denounce him as a race-hustling demagogue, and should.
Do you don't think he's a race hustler?
Biden does it, nobody says a word.
What things have Joe Biden done to help the black community? You know stats up the wazoo. You're pulling out 1962. What things has Joe Biden done to help the black community, whether it's appeasing race hustling or not? Give me one. Give me one.
That Joe Biden has done?
Smoking Joe Biden.
I would say nothing.
Not a thing.
Raising taxes hurts people at the bottom. Inflation hurts people at the bottom.
You're not going to give me one
gas
thing.
Prices, I can't think of anything.
And I don't
You're
understand.
saying he's saying give me one thing. That's the answer, Michael. Nothing. He's done
Democrats
nothing.
give black people rhetoric. That's
it.
They give us Juneteenth lynching bills, voting rights. Like we don't have all of that stuff. Like we don't have like it's not against the law to lynch someone. You can't murder people. That's already a thing. The whole Juneteenth thing. We didn't need that.
No.
You know what I mean? The
Black history. We don't need that
we
either.
don't need any of black history. What the Democrats have given black people is the privilege of whining.
Yeah, whining
publicly without getting any pushback.
It's the feel sorry for me movement party,
and that does not help us at all. At all, it doesn't help us at all.
And so
you can look at our numbers in all of these categories, whether it be about our education system, our single mother rate. If you look at the prison rates. None of that has helped any of that. It's gotten worse. So I don't understand what Michael is wanting us to say that Joe Biden has actually done to help black people at all.
Well, here's a good question. Why don't he say what Joe Biden's done?
Right.
Why don't he give us one example?
Why? Because he
can't find one.
Why? Because he gives black women it gives them array, or what do you call it? Promotions. All these black women are getting promotions. So you think he's done something for black people, or just those black women?
Yeah. It's
so they can spread propaganda, which is what they're doing all the time.
He's not trying to help things socially with black people. He's just helping people within the administration type thing for black people.
So I don't know what he thinks.
But Michael can't think of anything.
But that just shows you, though, that white Democrats think they're the good whites.
Yes, I know.
And they've been. See, he doesn't know what he's talking about either. So that is the danger. I always think white Democrats are some of the dangerous people. To me. That there are, because in our country, mostly because they're able to defend ignorance.
Right.
and make themselves feel like they're so virtuous. Like they're just, you know, they make everybody, they help you feel bad about yourself.
Well,
you know,
he just said Joe Biden went to a black church and said that the number one problem in America, this is the number one, guys, number one. Not the migrants coming here taking over everything, right? Not that. Okay, not the grocery store shelves being empty. No, not that either. Not the educational system being at an all-time low. No, not that either. The number one problem in Joe Biden's eyes, which is just rhetoric, to be honest with you, is that white supremacy.
Yeah.
A white man got up there and said that. That is complete pandering.
And he only did that because he won't go to a white church to say that. He only did that because they want to keep black people angry.
Yeah.
And all you have to tell black people is all you have to do is mention slavery, Jim Crow, oppression. They're trigger words.
Those are it's a dog whistles.
And then
Those
if
are
you
dog
say that
whistles,
to most black people, they don't hear anything else.
Nope.
They don't hear anything in context. Nothing comes after that. The instant they hear a word racist or you know, it's just a triggering word. And so that is the reason why when Larry Elder says things, black people can't take it in very well, because what they see is a man that they assume is being a puppet for what they call the white Republicans. But the truth is that no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What he's saying is that you guys have been Democrats for the last 80 years and nothing has changed for you.
Right.
Nothing has changed for you. You got Juneteenth.
And his rhetoric has been awful. He's lied about his civil rights record. He claims when he was a teenager, he would go to the black church and he would strategize how to desegregate movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware. New York Times did a whole thing on it. He never did it. And his aides were told, New York Times said, to stop saying it. He says it anyway.
But you're saying you
Talk
don't
about
like,
being a race hustler. He said he went to apartheid Africa when Nelson Mandela was behind bars and he tried to see him and got arrested.
Never happened.
But you don't like the rhetoric from Joe Biden, but you're stating the rhetoric from Joe Biden, but you're like, you care where the ball ends with Trump.
I was with Trump in 2016 at a black church in Cleveland. He talked about the black family and about how important it was, and I loved it, and people responded well to him. Remember he said, "What do you have to lose? Your schools are bad.
Right. What do you have to lose?
What's wrong with that? What do you have to lose?"
And he got 8% of the black vote in 2016. He got 12% of it in 2020, a 50% increase. And 20% of black men voted for him in 2020. A substantial increase because a lot of black people saw what was going on. The economy was good. He expanded enterprise zones in the inner city. He did something on the border. The people that are most hurt by illegal aliens economically are black people living in the inner city, because if you are a black person living in the inner city with high school or less, you're competing against illegal aliens with very little education. About 1 million more black people would be working if it weren't for illegal alien labor, according to a study done by the Civil Rights Commission. And Donald Trump stopped that. And Joe Biden has opened the floodgates. 8 million people, probably by the time he ends his term, will be here in the country illegally.
Listen, I don't have the answers. Mayor Adams just said it too. He said it.
But he didn't blame Biden. He blamed Trump. I mean,
because you can't call out Trump. I know you think Trump is. I know you're like you said.
Would I say the things that he says? No. Would that be my style? No.
As a president,
but I'm happy with his policies.
Would you?
I care. I'm not
voting for a fishing buddy.
See, that's
I'm voting for policies.
Okay.
I'm not voting. You know, people who do you want to sit down and have a beer with? I don't drink beer. I care about your policies. I care about taxes,
I knew you were going to say that, and I have no problem with it.
So this is the thing. See, this is the liberal's mind in real time. Like, you know, when you look at Michael, what he's doing is he got his question answered, and he didn't like that he was wrong.
Yeah.
So then what he did was try to pivot back to Trump again and make him out to be bad because he thinks of himself as a good white. And he's realizing that Democrats are not that good, and he's a Democrat. And now he's looking like a part of that problem. And he doesn't want to be a part of that problem, so it must be Trump's fault.
See, this is another part of the Democrats and liberals. They have this animated kind of emotion within them that blocks their logical thinking. And so, which messes them up in the voting booth. Because they vote based on just that emotional kind of... you know, the facade that the party puts out, not really talking about policies in a real way, not putting out stats and not caring about any of that.
It's all feelings.
It's all feelings. It's all emotion. I can't believe he called someone Sleepy Joe. I can't believe he called her, Crooked Hillary. He's just so built up in the emotion that he can't even think logically. This guy is so emotional, and he is just a representation of a lot of liberal people. Then when you talk to them, they are just so emotional. Remember the girl the girl that Charlie Kirk, we did a video a couple weeks ago, where Charlie Kirk talked to that college girl. See how emotional she was?
Yeah.
This is the liberal mind. They're so emotional at times where that is not called for.
It's not appropriate ever in politics, really. Because the truth is that this is what feminism is. It feminizes men. And he is a Democrat, which means that he's feminized. All Democrat men, all men who are Democrats are feminized. Because they can't speak against anything. They have to be in their emotional feelings. It's the only way you can. That's the only way you can feel sorry for women, gay people. You shouldn't feel sorry for people. That's not how you help people. You don't feel sorry for them. You help them. You know what I mean? And you know. And so this is the thing. It's like he has to feel in his feelings. Men are not supposed to be.
I know.
In
It's
their
not natural.
feelings,
It's not
especially
natural.
when it comes to business or politics. But in order to get men to fall in line with this, they have to feminize them by making them say everything that maybe they don't even really mean. Because I know that when he sat there and listened to what all the things that Larry just said, it hit him like, wow, we really do say the wrong things. But he can never say it because he's deemed himself the good white.
Yeah.
And the good white protects everybody emotionally.
And it's so interesting because I feel like when white people do this, white liberals do this, a lot of them are under the delusion that black people are still black minorities in general are going to somehow like them now because they're standing up for No, it never works out like that. They still hate you. I will keep saying that. They still don't like you. But yeah, this emotional talk is exactly the problem. The Michael Rappaports of the world are the problem. It's not natural for a man to behave like this. Okay,
He's overly
and I know that
emotional.
he's a comedian, and this might be a little bit of his gig. What's it called? His shtick. Yeah, it might be his little thing that he does. I don't know, but I can tell you, this is in general how a lot of liberals are just optically, and then just the way they behave.
And I talk, when I talk to any man, a lot of men these days, this is how they sound.
Yes,
they sound like a bunch of overwhelmed, over emotional women. They can't get their feelings in check. They're all over the place. You know what I mean? And they don't make any kind of sense.
I can always tell when it's a liberal man in our comment section because it's the exclamation points, the big letters, the blah blah blah. It's a very emotional. It's a very emotional. I can always tell the liberals from that because they're always kind of like that. And he's doing this in real time. Like he is behaving like the comment section when I see a liberal in the comments. I can't hear you.
The comments this long.
Yes.
And as soon as you see when it's this long, it's a man or a woman that's a liberal because they can never. They're emotionally like throwing up on the comment section. You know what I mean? You should be able to get your point across in a couple of lines. You don't really need to give me your
bullet points.
You don't need to give me a journal entry.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really crazy. And then there's always the ones that say, "Oh, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican."
No, it's always
no, you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
The instant you say that, I know that you're a
it.
Democrat because that is the way they. Even if you don't vote. You're thinking like the way they want you to be. They want you to conform to anything goes.
I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. It's the telltale sign that you're a Democrat, by the way. So
you're just saying that
that's
because,
not working.
Whenever a black person says to me, I think they're both the same. Two has the same sign. Like you're a Democrat.
Okay.
You believe me. Even if you don't vote, you think exactly how they want you to think.
Right.
That's what everybody says. They excuse that. And I personally think on both sides, we can do better. What is your stance on abortion? Give me your take on abortion.
Abortion is wrong.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
Come on, Larry.
Wrong.
How could you say that fatherlessness is such an issue, but abortion is wrong? If a teenager gets somebody pregnant, I want to hear you. Teenager gets somebody pregnant, they don't want to have a baby.
Adoption.
Come on, man.
Adoption.
Or God forbid somebody is raped.
There are 35 couples for every one kid available to be adopted.
God forbid somebody is raped and impregnated.
Can't get pregnant.
And God forbid somebody's raped or impregnated. Someone in your world, someone in a friend's world, a family member. They should have that baby? That's fucking disgusting, man.
The baby should be killed? That's disgusting.
This is not a baby. 2 months, 3 months?
It's still an innocent life. And there are, it'd be one thing if the pro-life side was not talking the talk and walking the walk, but there are thousands of pregnancy centers, sometimes called crisis centers. There are resources, adoption resources, money for housing.
How could you give birth to a baby that if you're raped, that you should not have to give birth to a baby if you're raped? Come on, man. How could you give birth if you're raped and then you have to give birth to it and put it up for adoption?
It's horrible. It's an awful thing, but I still believe that it's an innocent life.
So, again, whenever they talk about the abortion thing, that's the end of the clip.
They go to the 1%.
Yeah, they go to that 1%. So here's the thing, though, is that when abortions are a result of rape or incest, that is, rape is like 1%. Incest is under that. So, yeah, you can't give me the example of a less than 1% situation. Horrific situation, by the way. I get what he is saying. But the truth is that that's not going to be enough to account for the 99% of women who are getting abortions, mostly because they made a wrong choice. And a lot of them repeatedly make the wrong choice and have multiple abortions. So the 99% is what we're looking at. If you want to sit there and focus on the 106% of abortions that are happening as a result of rape or incest, then you go ahead and do that, but you're not giving any responsibility to the massive 99%.
And notice that they never bring up not having sex at all.
Yeah, that's the absolute.
Because they've enticed people with sexuality all day. That at the point now people want to try to have sex. You know what I mean? But we never give the values of just waiting till you're married. So what he's saying is that women can't wait till they're married anymore. We don't want to wait. We rather just
that's not even on the table. Look, that conversation, like in schools, that conversation doesn't even seem to be on the table anymore. Right. Like that's not even like an option. The option is like birth control, abortion, or be careful, like all these different things. It's like, no, what about the option? Let's add the very first option, especially for young people, should always be wait for marriage. That should be the number one option. We don't do that. We go right to condoms.
Like you would think that if you saw the abortion rate, and you would see that 99% of the women who are having abortion are just women who are irresponsible. Right. You would think that the country and all of these companies, these big companies and politicians would say, maybe we should stop promoting sex.
There you go. But
maybe we should stop making commercials sexual all the time. Maybe we should stop showing sex scenes in movies for no reason.
We can't control that.
We can control that. It's not a thing.
thing.
You know what I mean? Maybe we should just stop that. Maybe we should promote, nuclear families like we used to back in the 50s and 60s. Maybe we should promote that. Maybe we should promote small businesses. Maybe we should promote something other than doing nothing and continuously going down a line of bad behavior that we've been doing for the last 6 years since Woodstock.
Right.
We have literally gone down this bad path, and no one wants to say, let's stop going down the bad path. Let's make it so that when kids when young people are, before they go off, that they value marriage.
Yeah.
Maybe we should promote going to church.
But we don't.
We don't. We promote
Sexy
abortion.
Red. We promote Nicki Minaj and Sexy Red and Cardi B and the
AI
and the girl that Hawk 2 girl.
Yeah.
We promote that. That's what we're promoting now. We're not promoting the other stuff. So why would anybody, young people specifically, care about abstinence when we're not, number one, putting it on the table, and number two, promoting all this other stuff? Like, there are other options. Now,
maybe there should be restrictions on the internet where they say if you are doing like Instagram, if you do a twerk, you're taken off.
You're taken off. That's it.
That is obscene.
Baby steps. Let's just start there.
Just start there.
Yeah.
You cannot show your your butt on camera and do a twerk. You can't do it.
Because let's be honest. Let's be honest. Obviously, in the recent years with all these social media, the moment they put the camera on the phone, it's over. And now we have full ratchetness out there. It's just completely ratchet behavior, and so we're promoting the wrong things. So when you talk about abortion, like you really are, like Larry was saying, it's wrong. It's wrong on every level. Adoption, put your child up for adoption. He just said, he's gave you the stat there. You can look it up yourself. For every one child, there are 35 couples looking for a child.
Right.
For every one child, there's 35 couples looking for a child. So people want babies.
Again,
I'm just saying, like that. There's another option there.
The rapist gets to go to jail. The baby gets to die.
Make it make sense.
You know what I mean? I don't understand. Why we continuously use small groups of things to make big policies.
The minority.
You know what I mean?
The minority to do that every time.
Like how we do with trans people.
Yeah.
It's like trans people are like 0.0% of it, but somehow they have made a big impact on the way we see sports, the world and life.
Yeah.
We got men going into bathrooms with women now. You know what I mean? We've got incarcerated men. If only if they say they're a woman, they can go to incarceration women's prison.
How did that start? How do you think that started?
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
It's just like we've got drag queens reading to our kids. How do you think? And to me, I blame this all on feminism. I do, because the only way that can happen is for there to be a loose thinking on family values. That's it.
Yeah.
And women in general, we tend to nurture everything. This is the reason why everyone's so feelings oriented now. We are making decisions and laws based on feelings. And
that's dangerous.
And that's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. You know, he mentioned also, what's his name, Michael said, you know, you're always bringing stuff up from the 60s. You know, he said that to him. And I'm like, yeah, but see, like we said when we were talking about the Charlemagne thing, the reason why he brings up the comparison from the 60s, the 50s and 60s and 70s, you know, the reason why he brings that up and compared to what's going on now, because that is how it should have been. We should have changed those things. And so he's trying to say, what are the common denominators as to why they were behaved well back then? Yeah. Majority of people. Well, the common denominators would be there were fathers and there was also Christian values. That's the that's right there. So we have to be able to compare that. So I know people get sick of him kind of comparing the old times. Well, like, no, I don't, because I do want to know, what were they doing different?
Oftentimes,
because we're crazy right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oftentimes, the remedies to problems are simple. It's just we don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, to not have sex means to not have a baby.
Yeah.
So you don't need abortion or even birth control if you're not doing it.
There's there's things that are very controllable as long as we are all controlling that part of it. And there's some things that are out of our control. You know what I mean? But what we can definitely do is control things like abortion. This is a controllable situation.
I can see, like, even like the reason why men were the only ones that were able to vote back in the day is because men in their right mind are able to push aside feelings and deal with logic. Yeah. They're able to say, it may not feel good now, but this can affect us later. We're going to have to go through some hard times before we get to the promised land, basically. Yeah. You know what I mean? Men can do that. The problem, and women we're not really able to do that a lot of times.
Well, they can exclusively do it, and we can't. Like,
we follow feelings. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
which is natural.
Yeah, our bodies are made up that way. You know what I mean? And so, when women started to vote, now that women are, now in politics, not even just voting, we're now, you can see that now even we've literally did what Eve has done. We've given men the apple, and he did it.
Right.
And now he's acting like us. Yeah. And so now we've got a bunch of emotional men now, like Van Jones sitting there crying on camera. It's like, it's sad. Yeah. It's sad because I don't, like, again, I'll keep saying this, I don't think that a country can thrive off weak men.
No, I think that's actually
like a Michael Rappaport, this country will go down in flames. But that is where we're headed.
But that's the decline right now is due to that. We actually had a comment recently from a subscriber. He said he's an older man, he's in his 70s, and he said, when I started seeing men become more like crybabies in this country is when I knew that we've messed up completely. Because it's going to be men that are going to be able to keep this level and keep this, to keep things going right. And so when you lose that masculinity, and start calling it toxic masculinity, giving it names when it's just masculinity, that's when it all kind of go downhill. I think that it is going to be men.
To me, weak men is toxic.
It's very toxic. I mean, you've talked before about our military, and a lot of military recruiters are saying that they are having a very hard time getting men to recruit, and then two, the ones that do are not in shape, are not.
Well, they live in the world of social media, so they're not mentally strong. So they don't know how to take drill instructors and stuff like that. They don't take it as well as they used to.
Authority, they challenge. A lot of young people today challenge authority in all the wrong ways, and it's because they challenge the authority in their home, their parents, and their teachers. You see how kids act in school now? Like they have no problems with things going viral. They kind of want it. They're okay with slapping. We had a video where a kid just slapped his teacher like 4 times, And it's
yeah, I mean, again, like I'm saying, like even in the Genesis, in the Bible, in Genesis, I mean, it really just shows you exactly where we are today because the serpent told Eve that she could be like God.
Yeah.
And what have we done to women? We put women in a position where they think that they can be leaders above men, and then.
So women hate
Adam
when
gave
that,
him the apple, or Eve gave Adam the apple also, and then he did it. And so what that story is about order. We put the devil first, we put women, and then we put men, and then we put God.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done. We flipped everything around, and then we wonder why we have high abortion rates, high incarceration rates, why we have drag queens reading to our kids, why we are telling kids they can take puberty blockers, why we are in the state that we are in today.
Look, biblical order was there for a reason, and it was right. And I think people don't like when we've had people say they hate when we talk like this because they feel like we are saying that women don't have a position and whatever. And I'm like, no, we do have a position, and that position is in a supporting role, number one, and it is a powerful position. By the way, that is a very powerful position. It's like you're shortchanging yourself as a woman if you're not behaving, in that order.
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're putting a burden on yourself that's not for you. You know what I'm saying? Like that leadership, like burden, if you want to call it, would be for men. We have other things we need to be doing. So keep eyes on your own paper. Let them do what they're doing, and let's do what we're doing.
Right. I mean, I can see it, and even again, I mean, all of this stuff has been even you can bring even like the borders opening. We feeling sorry for everybody that's feminine energy.
Yeah.
All this, they can come in because they need asylum. Look, everybody cannot live in America.
Yeah. Right.
I'm sorry. You can't. You know what I mean? And so this is all feminine energy, and this is what happens when women take over. It just is. They affect men in a bad way, and now we've gotten men to a point where if they say one thing bad about them, which is why they don't say anything. We say one thing about women, then they get called misogynistic, and you know what I mean. And so men just don't say it.
All right, but yeah, you guys, let us know what you think about Michael Rappaport. He's so animated. It's very difficult to listen to him. Yeah, but anyways, let us know what you think. Leave some comments below, and that's it. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye.